Okay, how many have I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this one, I'm gonna put 6 in, and that'll make it good and nice. Okay, we'll let that boil. Now wash the jar out, sweetheart.
I will.
Okay, it's about ready.
Oh, I smell it.
Smell your tea. Well, so that made just enough. Taste and see how sweet it is.
I need a little more
A
sugar.
little more sugar.
Ooh.
Ain't it good?
Ooh, that's good.
Okay.
All it's missing is a little lemon. Tea is the talk. What is going on the people's minds?
The tea was the truth about somebody else's life. Maybe the truth about your own life. And you didn't want that poured all over, sweet or unsweet.
If you spilling tea, you're talking about somebody else, gossiping. That's a messy girl.
It means telling other folks, I poured a lot of tea here today because I named names.
You could get the tea on somebody. And sometimes Stevie Wonder could see it, but anyway.
If you're sharing the tea, then that's usually you're talking about yourself, you know. You say, what's the tea, bitch? What's going on with you? But if you're spilling the tea, you're gossiping, you're messy. Those are messy boots.
My name is Elondust Patrick Johnson. But since no one can pronounce my first name, I go by E. Patrick. I'm the baby of the family, the 7th child of Miss Sarah. I grew up in Hickory, North Carolina. Like many small southern towns, Hickory still has a set of railroad tracks that divides the north side of town and the south side of town. Whites to the north, blacks to the south. This is my old neighborhood in Ridgeview on the south side of Hickory, and this is where I grew up with my 6 siblings. It was 6 boys, 1 girl with my mom, and we all lived in this 1-bedroom house.
I slept in the living room, and they slept in the other room in a back
One
bed.
bunk bed.
1 bunk bed and a single bed. Mm-hmm.
But I slept in the living room with you on the pull-out sofa.
With me.
We didn't feel poor. We were very, very poor, 7 people crammed up in a 1-bedroom apartment, but we didn't feel that way because we were rich in so many other ways.
Well, baby Patrick was a little smart boy. He really was. I sent him to school, and he was very smart in school. We had him spoiled because he was the last one.
I wasn't spoiled.
Oh, he was a spoiled little rat. He was. He would always have been very smart, but I didn't think that he would grow up to be where he is now.
Before we start, let's just tell me where this draft is, you know, in terms of your thinking and the touring version of the show.
I've sort of added in a lot of stuff that has been taken out. I've tried to make the men's stories three-dimensional.
Clearly, each one of these are large personalities. And that's what, you know, in hearing it, that's what I'm getting. And obviously what the work we have to do is making it feel like there's a dramatic engine to each one of these, and then the dramatic engine to the entire piece.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, a long way from home.
All right, Patrick, go ahead and go with now. Don't you think it's time for this one to end?
Now, don't you think it's time for that one to end? Because I done gone too far.
Go.
Right now, we're finishing our second evening of tech. It's too early to look at sort of the way the play moves because we're being very stoppy and starty. So what we're trying to do is just look at images and looks and making sure that, you know, we're capturing the dramatic flow and this moment-to-moment stuff.
And a future goal of mine is to one day land a job at Nakaj, and it would be a great honor to perform before Patty. And my favorite song of hers to perform is "You Are My Friend."
Hold. Take a 5-minute break, please.
I always knew I was a star inside, in my own right. But who wanted to write about me, my story, what I've been through? Who cares? When I was a child, my grandmother used to allow me to scratch her scalp. We'd take a comb and part the hair, and she would love just for you to play in her hair for hours. And then she had these wigs that she would wear when she would go to church. And so I'd take great fun in for hours, like 8, 9 years old, combing and rolling her wigs up. And people would compliment them. So Aretha, what can I do for you today?
Well, I like a wash, conditioner.
Girl, the thermostat is reading 72. My hormones are saying it's 97. So I'm gonna make you hot like fire.
That's a conditioner?
No, this is actually a foam wrap. Oh. This is, it has conditioning agents as well as thermal protectants. It don't mean a thing if it ain't got the bling. My parents didn't really approve of the hairstyling. It just wasn't a manly career. For a long time, I spent a lot of my years trying to appease others, trying to accommodate others. What I lost was, who am I? What makes me happy? Never had a real, what you call a boyfriend or significant other. I made a decision over 15 years ago to be celibate. Not because I don't desire physical intimacy, but who society says I'm supposed to sleep with, I'm not attracted to. You know, the Bible says that homosexuality is an abomination. Now, we can change laws, we can change rules, we can change statutes, but God says his word's gonna stand. I can't change God's mind about me. I can't change God's mind about what he's already judged. All I can do is deal and live with the life that he's given me. In The Color Purple, the character Celie made a phenomenal statement. She told her abusive husband, she said, I may be black, I may be ugly, but thank God I'm here. I'm here, baby. Signed, sealed, delivered.
What did I do with my fan?
I didn't cut.
It should be in your chair.
It is in my chair, thank you. The dressing, Patrick, is blue cheese, northern Italian, or something called sweet Vidalia.
Well, of course I'm having that.
Of course. We don't typically say a prayer, we do the Quaker thing.
Yeah, so.
And that's just a moment of silence.
It looks delicious.
The first time I have to deal with something about not necessarily sexuality, but around gender, comes up very early for me because I was effeminate, or I am. What had been cute, what had been even considered intelligent, sensitive, around the time I was 8 or 9, became, you need to stop acting like a girl. And it really hurt me because I didn't understand why they were asking me this question. And why was behavior that had been rewarded or considered positive, all of a sudden now it's a problem. And the society and gender roles and all that were pretty set. So pretty soon I understood that I was breaking rules. And I was smart, so I figured out how to do that. When I came out, it involves a family that we were very close to losing their son to a gay murder. His gay brother pulled my mother aside and said, if you don't want the same thing to happen to Duncan, you better speak to him. When I got home, my mother set me on the bed, waited for my father to get home, and asked me if I was practicing homosexuality. So in some ways, I didn't come out, I was pulled out. Because I was going to wait till I became rich and famous and then come out to them in a nice restaurant.
So my coming out story that I shared for the Sweet Tea book was about me coming out at the age of 24. My mother and I are very, very close, and so I would talk to my mom like every day. And I was just coming out of a nap. I had just come back from a trip and, you know, just really getting myself together. And she started asking me a lot of questions about my trip. And knowing that I had visited the young lady that I used to go out with as well in DC. And then she said, well, is that your girlfriend? I said, no. And she says, well, do you have a girlfriend? I said, no. And she said, well, do you want a girlfriend? And at that point, I was coming out of my sleep. I was a bit comatose. I was coming out of my sleep. I said, oh, Miss Girl is trying to ask me some things. I always said, now, if they ask, then they're ready for whatever the response is going to be. However, when I felt that she was asking, I wasn't ready. I made the decision that on or before my 25th birthday, that I would have the conversation. That was in January. My 25th birthday was that February. And in a conversation with my mom, just like we always would have conversations, I was talking about nothingness, just nothingness. And she picked up on that, and she was trying to get off the phone, and I was trying to hold her on the phone because I'm trying to muster up the energy to have the conversation. And eventually I did. And I said, do you remember the conversation that we had back in January when you were asking me about my trip to New York? And Miss Lady said, oh, it wasn't a conversation. I asked you some questions that you barely answered, but it wasn't a conversation. And I said to myself, she clearly knows what I'm talking about. I said, well, that's true. I said, so does it matter? And then she said, no, not at all. And then she says, wait, does what matter? And I said, well, you know. And then she says, no, does what matter? And I said, come on, Mom, you know. No, she says, I want you to say it. Ask me the question. And then I said, does it matter if I'm gay? And she said, absolutely not. Are you happy? And I said, absolutely. And then she said, great. And I'm very proud of the way my mother handled that story, and very proud of the fact that she's never, ever changed the way she's treated me or loved me or talked to me, talked with me, cared for me, and in addition to that, how she has embraced my life.
Very quick, guys. We're going to do what we can to get through this as fast as we possibly can.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is beautiful.
My Georgia, the whole day through. Am I just going to have 2 rings?
Yeah, I'll get a couple more.
Okay.
But
Let's hold.
What is that, Christina?
This is the blackberry pineapple biscottini.
Oh, that's got to be good. You should have one of them. You should have one of them. And you would never guess how I heard about Van Winkles. I was watching NCIS Los Angeles, and that little character, that little Barbara Hunt character, this tiny little woman, was serving it to one of the associates, and the girl said, I don't usually drink bourbon, but this is good, so she said, it's Van Winkles. This is one of my pine needle paintings, which means most of the paint was applied with pine needles. But whenever I do those paintings, I go back with the tiny little brush, just add some little tiny highlights. I'm liking this. I think this painting is gonna sell. It needed something, so. Back in 1965, I had this friend, Leroy Holcomb. He had dropped out of college and just became this wild sissy. Leotha, another friend, and I were visiting. And Leroy said, either you got any money? And I said, I've got $3 or $4. And he bought some cube steak and a cabbage. So we went back to the apartment and we were chatting, and he kept saying, I'll walk y'all to the bus stop when you're ready. So Leotha and I looked at each other and looked at him and said, we're not ready to go home. So he said, okay, bitches, I'm going to offer you some dinner, but you have to say no because I want my guests to have seconds if you want seconds. So I said to myself, I damn sure not going anywhere now. I'm going to have to see who's going to eat my damn cube steak and cabbage that I can't have any of. So lo and behold, there was a knock on the door, and in walked this really cute little man, Leroy O'Quinn. And I looked at him. I'm not going to say I heard violins or anything playing, but something happened when I looked at him. So I called my friend Leroy, and I said, what are your intentions toward that little man? He said, you mean Leroy? I said, yes. He said, you like him? I said, well, I like him. I said, I've talked to him, 3 nights in a row on the phone, and I do like him. I said, but I would never go behind your back. I just want to know what your intentions are. So he said, you know me, I'm a whore. I push him out the back door and pull a piece of trade in the front. If you can get him, get him. And a voice in my head said, I've already got him. Leroy robbed a lot of people of my favors. Leroy showed up and swooped me out of the neighborhood.
What happened was we had one before him who lived for 23 years. And I swore that after Fred, there would be no more. And we went to the animal shelter and we saw this beauty. And so we were so excited that we decided to call him Freddie Brown Jr.
So what are y'all gonna do for your 50th next year? You have to have some big party.
I don't know. If you ask him, he'll say, oh, well, we'll go to Five Guys and have a hamburger.
No, you have to have some.
Sometimes I stop and think, time seemed to have went, and we were at this point. And I feel really blessed, fortunate that I made it to this age and still have some mental abilities and can see. We do the crossword puzzle together.
Oh, that's really good.
In the morning, okay? And the joke is, he grabs it first so he can get all the easy. Okay? What did you say about the clothing line? Eddie Bauer, I told you.
And it doesn't fit.
Okay, well, what have you got?
I have blank A, blank E, blank.
I don't know.
Pre-fight.
We talk about everything. How we feel about an idea, a person, but we try to talk as much as we can together so that we're sharing or we're differing. We're lucky to be able to have worked, retired, and still be a vital part of each other's lives. We tried to not be ashamed of who we were,
Absolutely.
as we talked about in the first interview. And now we kind of see it. Ready?
Ready.
No?
Sort of feel it, hey. I don't know. I don't think you could open. Let's see if it drives.
Wait a minute. No, I can't get this one here.
Can't get it open.
There's some more back there.
French Quarter right now, and we're going to see Countess. We just picked up a bottle of sherry. The person that introduced me to him said the Countess loves sherry, so we have to take him a bottle of sherry. Hey, George. Hey. How you doing?
Fine.
Oh, good to see you.
Oh, good to see you.
Here's your sherry.
Oh, thank you very much. Come on in.
Okay. I found a picture of you right after Katrina. Were you standing here on your porch? You had your glasses in one hand and a book under the other hand.
Yeah.
And they had marked your house
Yeah.
A.
Yeah, they had marked all these places around here after the storm.
Mm-hmm.
Have a seat.
Okay. Did so you didn't board up any of your windows or anything? No?
I had no money for no board. They say the Lord would take care of you. So that wasn't the first storm that I had been in.
And you didn't have any electricity or?
No.
So
well, I
do?
wasn't born with electricity, you know, honey.
Right. Didn't you used to have parties for Carnival?
Every corner would have a house full. But when I was living in the quarter, that's where the action was.
Right. Because you were just one block from Bourbon Street.
That's correct. That's correct. But they would be like that in the morning, they'd come in the morning, and they'd be there till God knows what time at night. And they'd be cooking in the evening, we playing cards, because I like to play cards. I don't mean playing cards for free. I don't play cards for free.
What do you play, poker?
Well, most time we'd be playing pity pat.
Now, did you used to win a lot?
I'd win sometimes, and many times I would lose. I can't say I let win, because nobody wins, win.
Right.
You win sometime, and you lose sometime.
How much more of Countess do you have that isn't in the script?
Oh, a whole lot.
A whole lot, yeah.
Yeah. Countess makes tea at the top of the show. And one of the funniest moments in the show is him pouring 2 cups of sugar, and it's like a long, dramatic pour. It's such a ritualistic kind of thing, and something that people who are from the South, know very well, and then those from the South are just like horrified by it.
I think that's a really good thing for Countess to be doing if she's on stage for the first time and is making tea. That's sort of beautiful.
Yeah. I remember way years ago, this young man come here say he writing a book about the gays. Say he want me to tell my story. I look at him and I think to myself, he don't want me to tell my story. He need to tell his own. Everybody got a story to tell. I'm the first African-American born in Hickory to earn a PhD. At least that's what the historians of Hickory believe. Growing up, I knew that I was gay, but I always knew that that was wrong in the eyes of the community. The community didn't realize that it wasn't just my being Black that motivated my overachievement. It was also my being gay. I also tried to overcompensate by being the model son, sending money back home. I never did drugs. I tried to inspire young people. So I did all of those things in the hopes that when the time came for me to come out as gay, then it wouldn't be as disappointing to my family, to my community, to anybody.
He's done what we all dreamed that our children will do. Go away and do a good job and be willing to come home. That's why we're in this building. That's why we're celebrating in this neighborhood. Because this is the neighborhood where we grew up. And over and over again, it has been said that young people that grow up in
here. I am a testimony to the fact that you can make it. I don't care what the odds are against you. You can achieve anything that you want to achieve. Put your faith in God. Listen to your elders. There's so much wisdom here in this community. Thank you. God bless you.
One of the funny things about that day is on the cake that they had made, they wrote, "From a zero to a hero." The other theme, they said it couldn't be done. And they meant the white folks.
There was no acknowledgement of me being gay. And at that point, I think I had come out to my mother that year. So all that was really new, even, you know, for my immediate family. And so no, there was no.
And then we have Chaz Chastity, which is the transgender story.
When I interviewed Chaz, he was wearing these black leather pants, these open-toe sandals, and his toenails were French manicured, and, you know, off-the-shoulder mohair sweater, and the face was done. But now, all that's gone. He has a beard, and it's Charles. You can't call him Chaz or Chastity.
I knew that I was attracted to men, but yet I was a male too. Yet, what I was taught in church and by my parents was that the way I felt was wrong. That I shouldn't feel that way. I should not like men the same way that I liked, or that I was supposed to have liked women. But I couldn't help how I felt inside. I was in my teens, I want to say 18. And there was an episode of the Phil Donahue show that I was able to catch. And in this particular show, he was interviewing a woman by the name of Caroline Kasi, whose stage name was Tula.
Well, she was born in England, and she was raised as Barry Kasi. He, Barry, is now Caroline Kasi.
I was very confused. I mean, I left home because I didn't want to be an embarrassment to my family. And once I had my chromosomes and I was under a psychiatrist, he said, "You're a transsexual." I said, "Well, what's that?" And he explained, and then he said, "You can have surgery," and it was wonderful. It was like plain sailing.
Mm-hmm.
I went home and I said that I was having medical treatment.
And at that meeting, everybody was civil and...
Yeah.
Well, that's remarkable, if I may say. I mean, this is a respectful bow to your family. Not everybody's up for this, as you know. This is a very challenging thing, painful for many families.
This person who, from my perspective and my mindset, was a female, had been born like me, a boy. And she used the term that she was trapped inside the wrong body. I was like, wow, that's it. I can't be gay. God must have made a mistake. I went to my Yellow Pages here at home and looked up sexual reassignment. Of course, this is Hickory. There was no such thing. But I did find sexual therapist. The doctor performed some kind of diagnostic exam and asked me several questions, because part of that process is they want to make sure that you're mentally sound. My mother did not accept that whatsoever, that meaning the lifestyle of becoming a woman, being transgendered. being who she did not birth out. What God told her was inside her womb did not match or line up with what she saw in her face. Where is my son and what did you do with him was the question she was asking herself and me. I did not raise you to think that you were supposed to be anything other than a male.
It's interesting to me that even though at this current stage in my life, I'm out and I'm open about that, at the time that I interviewed him, he was more of a role model for me because at that point, I wasn't completely out to my entire hometown. And I felt that he was living his life openly and honestly and standing inside of his own truth, but I wasn't necessarily, even as a professor.
You make me beautiful. Little color, honey. Won't hurt nobody. All right. TTFN. I was born Charles Kenneth Danner Jr. and I'll remain Charles Kenneth Danner Jr. I finally gotten to a point, honey, where I'm happy being Charles Kenneth Danner Jr. There's nothing wrong with Charles Kenneth Danner Jr. There are many people who grew up here, discovered that they were gay, and no longer live here. But a lot of it's because of the pressures that came with living here, because it would not allow them to be who they feel that they are. I lived here in spite of the odds.
I was still, again, invested in this whole notion of Black respectability and maintaining that facade of heteronormativity. I didn't necessarily want to come out for a number of reasons. The disappointment, the disgrace, all of that. And because I was so tied to the church, I didn't want people to think ill of me, or to condemn me. And it's because I was still invested in all of that stuff at that point.
When I think back about growing up in Durham, we were segregated, but my experiences were not that we were segregated by race. We were segregated by class.
I actually remember the sound of bloodhounds chasing probably black men. And I didn't actually ever see but heard of lynchings. So there was this kind of an awareness that you were less than them. You were less than them.
I can't tell you how many times within almost 7 years, a little white woman come in the door, no disrespect, but she see my black face and she runs the other way. But that's her loss, because I'm a great hairdresser.
Race down here is obviously an issue, but it is an issue unique to the South in a way that white folks and black folks know each other.
Black men are, vulnerable to state violence, to police brutality, just for existing. And so add to that being gay, it's a lot.
This is the South. You still got people that don't like black people, period. But then to be a black gay man?
There's an ownership around spirituality and faith that is in the dirt. and they ain't ever gonna give it up. It's part of the culture.
I grew up in the church. I particularly loved singing in the choir. I was the only boy soprano, and the choir was the one place that I felt safe. But that same religion that supports you and encourages you is the same religion that damns you to hell.
I sometimes think of just going to attend the ritual of church. I don't know that I would get much of anything from it personally, other than maybe meeting a nice church-going man.
There's a heaven. There's also a hell. I'm not going to the other. In hell, honey, all you get is some demons, a pitchfork, and bad music.
The South can be very unrelenting in its moral judgment about people's behavior. But then there is a rub because everybody's doing what they say that you shouldn't be doing, like drinking and smoking and adultery and being gay.
First time I met Stephen
was here.
Was here.
When we were moving to Chicago?
We were moving to Chicago. I thought he was a very nice young man, and I'm always friendly to people, and he was very friendly and all, and you know, I never would have thought that he and Patrick would have been together like they are, you know, but he was very nice. But I can't have the ribs because they are...
Because I'm so close to my mother, I was really hurt when she didn't acknowledge my being gay, when she didn't acknowledge my relationship with Stephen. In fact, when we moved to Chicago and we decided to buy a house, she actually said, "You're not going to buy a house with that boy, are you?" It was many, many years before she really came around to accepting that her baby boy was gay. And not only that, that he was with a white man.
He was from Jackson, Mississippi, so we both had kind of rural background. We started gardening. Our garden was written up in the paper a couple of times. We joined the Azalea chapter of the American Rhododendron Society, and we won lots of red, white, and blue ribbons. In 2001, HGTV's A Gardener's Diary did our garden.
Azalea blooms compete with large-scale paintings in this southern garden.
Leroy O'Quinn shares garden duties with Freddie Stiles at their home in Atlanta, Georgia. His collection of unusual garden artifacts reflects his lifelong interest in history.
I was born in Madison, Georgia, 60 miles east of Atlanta. We did not have indoor plumbing. We grew all of our own food, but I always had my little garden plot. Well, you know, when you garden, you have to kind of ignore the rules. It's kind of like being an artist. You learn all of the rules and then you ignore them.
Freddie has all of this sense of nature as reflected in his paintings. So one of the things that we share is to enjoy the beauty of nature and gardening.
My work has been really kind of a celebration of life.
Of course, it's never complete, but you're always discovering something, and then when you see the perennials, that they come back to renewal of life, and it gives you a tremendous feeling of how we're all interconnected with the beauty of the world.
That was, I guess, the high point in our gardening, because after that, we didn't do much gardening. His health was failing. I was obligated to run a gallery for the city of Atlanta, so there was no time to stand with a hose in my hand to water a garden during the hot summer, so a lot of the plants were lost. That was kind of the end of our gardening, because his health continued to fail until he died in 2009. It was difficult losing my partner. Just imagine living with someone for 44 years and losing them. It's been an adjustment. There were times I thought I would go to sleep and not wake up. Because many years I was suicidal. That was one of the things, the issues I dealt with in counseling. But not having had a suicidal thought for over a year was my marker. And I haven't had one since. It's been years since I've had a suicidal thought, but for many years, I even tried it 2 or 3 times, obviously unsuccessfully. But there were times when it was so painful, and my partner was very ill. In my head, his dying was for the best. In my heart, it wasn't. And I think the two have kind of balanced themselves now. And on Sunday, my little dog, Cleopatra, died. And I took it better than I thought I would. I sort of looked at the bigger picture of having Cleopatra. I don't know if I could have survived losing my partner if I had not had her. So I think she served her purpose to get me to a point of healing that I've attained. So she's gone, and here I am. So, are we ready? I'm ready.
So what's the tea? 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 So what's the tea?
I met Patrick when I was 17 years old. Patrick was at Chapel Hill, and I wasn't. My godbrother was a freshman at Chapel Hill, and so I spent a lot of time on that campus, Gray Hall, dancing, hanging out, partying. And so at night, I would get ready for bed, and my godbrother would swing by and pick me up, and I would leave the house. I would walk down the lawn, down the driveway, and get in the car and go to the gay clubs. I was going to be around those older than me and was going to do what I wanted to do with whom I'd like to do it. Where exactly would you like me, Steve? Like you right there. Okay.
So you gonna make the tea?
Yes, I mean, I'm gonna make you this tea because I know that that's what you want.
Because you never made it for me.
I need a picture for this tea.
I'll get the cute one.
So what's the tea? 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 So what's the tea? So what's the tea? So what's the tea? So what's the tea? What's the tea? What's the tea? What's the tea? So what's the tea? So what's the tea? So what's the tea? So what's the tea? What's the tea? What's the tea? What's the tea? So 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 what's the tea? What's the tea? What's the tea? What's the tea? So what's the tea? So what's the tea?
Bam, bitch. And there you have the best picture of sweet tea this side of the Mississippi.
Well, I ain't tasted it yet. So you don't do lemon?
No, I don't like lemon in my tea.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, that's cute.
Very.
That is, and I can taste the peach.
It's very good. It's not too sweet. It's the right amount of sugar and sweetness.
It is.
That's just like me.
A little salt on the edge.
I like it
around the
that way.
rim.
I like it that way. I like it that way.
It's interesting that, like, it's such a big deal in the South, sweet tea.
Here are your tea bags.
So we just dump them in there, and I just do that because I don't want to put the hot liquid in the cold pitcher, and, you know. And we're doing the compromise amount of sugar?
Yeah, we'll do the compromise amount of sugar.
A half a cup because David's not from the South.
Not bad.
Need some lemon. I've been in many interracial relationships, so this isn't the first time I've dated or been seriously involved with a white man. And I did have encounters with men who were other than African American or white. Because like I told somebody, I was gay and I like men, and men happen to come in a whole lot of different colors and types. My friend Eric, I wanted a man to sing at the wedding, and he rose and sang. I got everything I wanted. Of course, these are all our friends, and the reason they're standing in line is because they're signing the certificate. And of course, gossiping. Oh, the soloist who sang Endless Love, and she was fabulous.
What a difference 10 years makes. 12 years.
For some reason, my hair was red. We did look good, though, didn't we?
I think we did.
At our commitment ceremony, not only did both of our mothers attend, they walked us in. And that was a very powerful moment for both Stephen and for me, because our mothers, who initially had not accepted our relationship, had come around. And to witness a bunch of straight people actually confirming our love for one another.
Patrick, I give myself to you.
I love you.
I love you.
Trust you and delight in you.
I trust in you and delight in you.
We have a great life together as partners. I'm also happy to see how our families have really come together across a lot of, differences, not just the racial difference, but class and all kinds of things.
Of course, I don't have a husband. I don't want a husband. No. I done had 2 husbands, and I can't say to you all what they was. I can't say it. Because it's ugly, honey. It's ugly, very ugly. So, I won't say it because you record this. I won't say that. But I had 2, I had 2 bad ones. One was a whore, and
How'd you know he was a whore?
Oh, he was a whore, honey. And what did I say the other one?
I don't know. Oh, you talking about Mr. Ford?
He was a drunk. Oh. Yeah. He was a drunk, and he was, I won't say what he was.
He was mean. Too.
Oh, he was mean. Yeah, he was one of them.
Cause you took his name, but then you changed your name back.
Yes, I did. I sure changed my name back to Johnson.
I'm always on the road.
On the road,
And I'll call you, and you say, "Well, who's with Stephen?" And I say, "He's there by himself." What'd you tell me?
I don't know.
You don't remember? You said he gonna leave you.
When I was a young person and a young adult, and at that time, you see, we had lots and lots and lots of black gays, and they were all over the place. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You saw him? Yeah, that's right. He got him in there. They kind of dusted though.
I got this in the book. What year was this?
I got out in 46.
Oh, look at you.
Now, I had the medals and all that, but I never, when I had this picture bit made, I didn't put no medals on it because I just wanted to get out. And I don't even have the medals today.
He said that there was this ritual that a lot of the older black gay men in his community had of naming the younger black gay men who were introduced to the community. One of the older men named him Vivian, and then he said that a Russian black drag queen named Olga ordained him Countess. Olga?
Yeah. And she's the one that made me a countess. That's right.
So it was a black Russian named Olga who made you a countess.
All them people are dead. All of them are gone.
How long have they been dead?
Lord, they've been dead for years and years, honey. Yes, indeed. Because I'm 96 right now, and in 2 months I'm going to be 97. You know, it's been a long, 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 long time ago. There's nobody, all the people, and I sometimes say, all the people that I've known, and I done been in this organization, I done been in that organization, all gone. All gone.
You done outlived everybody.
That's right, honey. And I'm going to be here for a lot of them gone, too.
I know that's right. All right, well, we're going to head out. It's so good to see you.
Pray for me and all of
I will.
Poor sinners.
I sure will.
Why should I feel discouraged? And why do the shadows come? And why must my heart feel lonely and long for heaven and home?
When I became aware of HIV and AIDS in the early 80s, it was really scary. People were dying. We didn't know what caused the disease. We didn't know how people contracted it. I remember one of the first people that I lost was my friend Reggie, who sang next to me in the gospel choir, who was a part of a group that I used to hang out with. It was so devastating to lose someone that close to me. Part of the guilt that I carried around with me was not attending any of my friends' funerals who passed away of AIDS. And it's one of the things that I feel the most guilt about, even today, that I didn't attend any of those funerals.
His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches over me. Watches over
So it's 1984, and the epidemic is starting to flourish here in Atlanta. And I go in October of 1985 to a volunteer training for a little agency called Aid Atlanta. It's now the largest AIDS service agency in the Southeast. And it was a whole weekend workshop on what we could do about AIDS. And I left there believing in 1985 that all we had to do was use condoms. And I thought, oh, well, we'll just tell people to use condoms. They'll use condoms, and this will be over with. And then I can go back to the theater. I canceled my voice lesson and went to my job at 8 Atlanta in 1986. And there's only one big regret I have in life. Well, several, but one big one. And that's that I wish I hadn't canceled my voice lesson. Because there wasn't a reason for me really to have put that so to the side for HIV and AIDS. Because I have been an HIV negative man involved in HIV and AIDS since the earliest days of at least the epidemic here in Atlanta, I can't claim that I'm not affected by the epidemic and that it hasn't shaped my young adult life, my middle years, my later middle years. And I'll tell you, it also has prepared me for sitting across from a doctor who told me and my husband that I have prostate cancer and what the journey might look like. It is not the same as getting HIV, but it's close. I had early detection, thank God. But you know, 1 in 6 men get this. And the same sort of not talking about it, I feel like I'm back at the early days of the epidemic in some ways.
African American men differ from other men in their approaches to sex. In the white gay community, which is well organized and everything like that, well funded, you've seen a decrease in HIV infection rates. As in the black community as a whole, you've seen an increase.
Adoti Muse started out as a writers collective. We started out with I think about 10 guys. And we were meeting weekly and just sharing poetry and trying to, without being too vicious, critique each other. And then 3 of us at least had a bent toward performance. We became Adoti Muse, a gay Negro ensemble, telling our story through poetry as theater. And, you know, when I get arrogant, I say, well, we were black, gay Shakespeare.
You can talk about prevention all day long.
In 1995, that was a pretty bold statement by 3 black gay men wearing African skirts and mud cloth and made up to the hilt and looking fabulous. And we didn't just say it, we were screaming, "We are here." The change occurred when Anthony joined the group and he had a slam poem called Out, O-U-T, I'm out, O-U-T, for the whole world to see.
I'm a soldier in the field that used to run from the war, but it's no longer my problem.
It really is one of the proudest things in my life is Adoti Muse, because we were able to say things on stage as black men that nobody had heard.
I was really nervous about performing the men's stories in their homes or on their jobs, or in one case, at their church, because I felt the stakes were different because they were watching me perform them one-on-one rather than in an audience. And also it changed because it was more about me having accountability to them in a different kind of way.
I wish I had that sweater back because...
Is it your sweater?
No, it's not. It's his sweater. But the one I had that was similar.
Why is he pretending to be so old?
I think this works better.
Action. When we first moved in this house, it was a mostly white neighborhood. So the police would follow us.
I remember one time I got off at the corner there at the bus stop to come home, and the police was parked there. And he called me over. He said, "What are you doing here? Show me some ID." And I said,
"I live on this block." He said, "You live on this block?" I said, "Yes." So I
pull out my ID that has my address on it, he didn't believe me. So he followed me home. I put the key in the door, and then I say, "See ya." I remember one time someone saying, "Oh, I didn't know you dealt in snow." And I didn't know what the hell he was talking about, you know. I love my partner from the very beginning. I trust him emphatically. He knows more of my weaknesses and accepts them more than anybody else. And I didn't find that with anybody, no matter what their color or their religious beliefs. What is left of friends and family, there is a warmth. And they accept us for who we are, not what they think we are.
Several of my friends, when I told them I feel called to the ministry, they said, "Well, you've been preaching at us for years." Several people in ministry said, "Well, Duncan, you have been involved in ministry. You just didn't call it that."
Honey, church didn't play in my upbringing. It was my upbringing. When your father is the pastor and the church is less than 200 people, that's your extended family. And I enjoyed church because I was a leader in church. And at times, church was just a little bit safer, especially after my voice changed and I became quite a good baritone singer at church. So not only was I gifted and rewarded for my abilities and intelligence, but I was also loved and admired and got all the things they say young black kids don't get. But I got it. And when it comes to gay people, and I'm very careful about this one, because I don't buy the mythology that black folk are more homophobic than anybody else. And I don't buy it because I grew up knowing gay people, and they were all in the church. And I'm not talking subtly gay. I'm talking flaming queens who ran the choirs. And everything is full of gay men. And if you look in any denomination, and you look around, and you look close, you'd be like, oh my. You can't have an institution in the black community unless you have articulate, sensitive, educated, bright young men running it. And guess who that just described? You know, James Baldwin said that we could not enter the 21st century without him. And he was so right, because they're teaching his words in English courses. A black gay man who came out of the church.
It's been weird, you know, watching you have my cadence down so well. And you know I get a call every time you do a performance.
Somebody else said that who's supposed to be anonymous. And it's like, oh child, we know that's you.
Oh my.
Yeah, CC.
Well, that's why I told you to spell my name correctly.
Okay, all of it.
Well, out O-U-T for the whole world to see.
I would have cheated a little more to this side if I was going up the stairs.
Okay.
Because your voice gets lost. Yes.
This is something you can do. You don't have to have any real skills. See what I'm doing?
I don't have no skills?
Well, I don't know. You're an actor, you're a producer, you're all of those things, but I've never known you to paint. Just a speck of color here and a speck of color there. What I don't want is anything too big a dab, so you have to have kind of a light, delicate touch.
Okay.
Just a delicate, yeah. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you might just want to do boom, boom, boom. You know, just however you feel, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cool.
And just do a little squiggly line. Yeah, like that.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I feel very French.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very French. All you need is a little, what is that, beret?
Oh, yeah, right. In high school, even in elementary school, there was one teacher who would assign a girl to tell her if anyone bothered me when she left the room. I later found out that she was, in fact, a lesbian. In 6th grade, some boys were bothering me, and the teacher kept us after school. And I would always carry a single-edged razor blade in my pocket to sharpen my pencils. So the boys were going to line up to beat me up because they said it was my fault that we were kept after school. And I would always say in the sweetest little voice, because you see, I'm reasonably soft-spoken now, "Leave me alone. I'm minding my business. Don't bother me." And this boy ran up to hit me, and I cut him across the shoulder with my razor blade. And bravely the next day, I went to school, and the same boy came up to me, and he had a hairline cut across his shoulder because I had cut through 2 or 3 layers of clothing. He said, "You better be glad." I said, "I want to be left alone. I'm not bothering you. Don't bother me." And what always happened, if anyone attacked me, they always ended up seeing some of their own blood. So rumors spread. Don't bother him. He's a mean little sissy. And he's stronger than he looks.
Well, you know, that reputation followed me through high school. And the boy Fletcher, who, the one I cut, about 10 or so years later, he showed up to have his way with me, and that started a tryst. But I found that all along, oftentimes people who bothered me the most were people who kind of were interested and didn't know how to express it. That's kind of an experience I've had along the way. One of the beauties of me going through counseling is that there was a time hearing those stories about my painful early childhood would bring tears to my eyes. Now I can laugh at it. It's almost like it wasn't me, it's someone else. Because I'm not a victim anymore, I'm triumphant. And I tell people now, one thing I missed since my partner died, I said, before he died, I could go out in the world and the world would jump up and down on me and call me an ugly bitch. And when I got home, there were open arms and he would say, there, you're not that ugly.
So this picture is of me in Charlotte on stage. My stage name was Chastity, and one of my favorite artists of all times to this day is Patti LaBelle. And in this picture, I was performing You Are My Friend at a nightclub in Charlotte. And I've now since then retired, of course, from my entertaining, but it's great to look back on this photograph. It brings back a lot of nostalgic feelings. How my life has changed since then. She doesn't visit me often. Chastity is in this book, and that's where she'll remain.
Here's one choice, if I can get it unraveled. There'll be feathers everywhere.
Boy. I go for this Mardi Gras. We have these. Dripping, darling, dripping.
And we have these.
Now, when we are wearing these, who are we?
Patti, of course.
She says, hello, hey, Joe. You want to give it a go? Itchy. Yeah. You know, Patti will make a costume, honey. I need a tip, girl, honey. I need you, because these queens will steal your coins. Okay, that's all for now, darlings. The rest you have to pay for. This is all I can give you for free. If I missed anything about the art, it is the illusion. Being able to transform oneself. There have been many times, it was not because Patrick never extended the invitation for me to see. I just was not ready. I'm at a different place mentally. emotionally, spiritually. For the longest time, I always knew that there was something different about me. I always knew that when I would disrobe, that I was quote unquote a male. But my mother never hesitated to remind me that she had 2 sons. I'm scared. How will he portray me? Is it accurate? Do I act like that? Is that really how I act? For 5 years, I ate, slept, worked, breathed what it was like to be a female here in Hickory. And what has brought me to the decision not to have the surgery is that I felt that once the doctors had done the reassignment, meaning the physical reconstructing of my body, the one thing that they would not have been able to tamper with was my essence. And why should I risk losing my life on a surgeon's table to appease others? And would it have really appeased them? Like I said, I had to become comfortable within the skin that I was in, and knowing that a physical change wasn't going to change who I was mentally. It might soften the blow for you to say, well, shit, at least she looks like a natural woman now. She's got natural-looking breasts and long flowing hair and smooth skin and a vagina. But does that truly constitute being a woman? And the person that I'd like most to impersonate is Patti LaBelle. And a lot of my family and quote-unquote fans say I favor Patti a great deal. And a future goal of mine is to one day land a job at Lacage. And it would be a great honor to perform before Patti. And my favorite song of hers to perform is You Are My Friend.
Well done.
You okay, sweetie?
Why am I crying?
It's the first time you've seen it. And the children go up, honey. When Patti comes on, yeah. I've been telling you for over a decade now how powerful this story is, how life-transforming it is to folks who are struggling. You're a role model. Your story has been heard around the world. Just know that. This was your gift. Your life is a gift.
Can I have a minute, please?
He's never come to see the show. He's never come to see me perform the show. And so, yeah, this is a real moment for us both. And I'm trying to hold it together. It's, yeah, a journey indeed.
Thank you. No, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Absolutely flawless. It was me speaking. Verbatim. I was standing right there. I just saw myself in the mirror. It's beautiful. Thank you.
What do you want to drink? You want me to make you a gimlet? Yes, you can do that. I'll do it. Oh. Clutch pearls.
Y'all, this is not because I'm playing grand. I'm on hormone therapy and I'm having hot flashes.
To friendship.
Yes.
To friendship.
To friendship.
To friendship.
To friendship.
Y'all, we ain't drinking no sweet tea.
Okay.
If y'all want to hold hands.
Of course. I never do blessings without holding hands.
Creative Spirit, we're very grateful for this opportunity to be together. We're grateful for Sweet Tea and all that it's brought to our lives, and especially for E. Patrick Johnson. We thank you for making us just like we are and for blessing us with this sumptuous meal. Help us remember all those people who don't have friends or food like this, and help us be the right kind of friend to those folks. Amen.
Amen. And hallelujah.
I felt Sweet Tea as a book was needed because there was no archive about the experiences of Black gay people in the South. And so I felt an urgency to fill in that history. These men have given me a different perspective on my own life, about how to live, about how to love, about how to just be in the world, loving yourself, especially for who you are. People ask me all the time, how did you get these men to open up to you, to be honest about such personal stories? And I say, I asked.
I need to walk the path to truth paved by my queer ancestors, both living and dead. I need to hear their tales and touch their scars, so that I can go home as who I am. Hush, hush, they are calling me to story. There is power, 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 power in the story. Hush, hush, they are calling me to story. The beauty of truth and the beauty of story are ready to meet. If you want the truth, you start the truth at the beginning. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was the tea.
So I'm back
backstage live in Hickory, North Carolina at Lenore Ryan College. And my mama's sitting on the second row. And it's going to be scary, but I think we're going to have a great time. I'm really excited about being here and having my mom see the show and other folks from Hickory. So hope I can hold it together and just enjoy it and let other people enjoy the stories that I've been telling for now 10 years, the stories of Black gay men of the South, whose stories are not just Black gay men of the South stories, but all of our stories. So hopefully the folks here in Hickory will appreciate that their native son has come home. I'll let y'all know a little later. All right, bye-bye.
Tell me what you think about the place, the performance tonight.
Oh, it was lovely.
How'd you enjoy seeing your baby boy on stage for another time?
You know that's your baby boy, don't you?
That's your favorite.
He's a big baby boy.
You know your other children get jealous when they see you.
Oh, yes, I know that.
You know that. Mm-hmm.